This is not just another past paper walkthrough. Every day for 14 days, I'm going to be uploading one question from the Edexcel 2023 paper to help you with your revision. And on top of that, I've created a bonus final part of each of the questions to really boost your revision. They're a little bit harder, so especially if you're aiming for the top grades, this is the kind of revision you need to be doing. Let's go. Okay, so the first thing that I noticed about this question, it says solutions relying entirely on calculator technology are not acceptable. A lot of things you can now do on your calculator. However, if they say this, they expect to see every stage of the working and not just you relying on the calculator. So let's keep that in mind when we do this. So on this one, it gives us a function, and part of that function is 4a, where a is a positive constant. So we know this number at the end is actually going to be just a number when we put a in. It says, given that x minus a is a factor, show that. So again, really important. This question is all about how are you showing your workings. So show that there. Well, you should be thinking here, factor theorem. So if x minus a is a factor, then if we put a into this, it should equal 0. So I would start by writing something. Since x minus a is a factor, then f of a, so when you substitute a in, should equal 0. So then you proceed after writing that to do it, but you're showing here that you know this is factor theorem. So f of a, if we're going to substitute in a, we get 4a cubed plus 5a squared minus 10a plus 4a, and we know that can equal 0 because of the factor theorem. So here, the last bit before we do anything else needs to be simplified because we've got 2. So minus 10a plus 4a minus 6a equals 0. And then we just see it wants it in this format. So it's saying basically take out the a. So if we take out the a, we've got 4a squared plus 5a minus 6 equals 0. And we've got what they asked us to prove. So we finished the question there. And then part B says, hence find the value of a. Now this part B really is just solving quadratics. When you've got something times something, then you know one of those things needs to be 0. So either a equals 0 or 4a squared plus 5a minus 6 equals 0. And then you've got to solve this quadratic. Now, I would pay attention to this. Normally, you would probably type this into your calculator to get it solved, but you're going to need to factorize because it says you can't use your calculator in this one. So they are testing, even though this is a basic skill for this bit, they are testing that you know how to factorize quadratics. So I'm going to use something called the splitting method. So we do 4 times 6 is negative 24 because of the negative 6. So what factors of 24 make 5? So hopefully you're thinking 3 and 8. So it's 4a squared plus 8a minus 3a. So 5a is now 8a minus 3a minus 6. And then you split it down the middle and you factorize each side. So this becomes 4a brackets a plus 2 minus 3. And then this would be a plus 2 because minus 3 times positive 2 is negative 6 equals 0. So then we've got 4a minus 3 and a plus 2. So you take the 4a and the minus 3 and you put it into one bracket, and then this repeated factor, a plus 2, that is your other bracket. And then we've got that. So then we've got either 4a minus 3 equals 0 or a plus 2 equals 0, which would mean a equals 3/4 or a equals negative 2. Now, that's 3 solutions. It says find the value of a. So we need, again, to look back in the question. And it said earlier here, keeps doing that highlighter going everywhere. So it said here, a is a positive constant. So there's only one of these that are positive constant, and it's this one. So your final answer is a equals 3/4. And just make it really clear that's your final answer. Anything you can do to help the examiners mark it properly and see what you're trying to do it. Even if it isn't really formal, as long as it's really clear. That's the most important thing. And then part 2 says, use algebra to find the exact solution. Again, they're emphasizing use algebra. They want you to use algebra to find the exact solution to f of x equals 3. Well, we know f of x now is 4x cubed plus 5x squared minus 10x. And we've now got 4a, but we know a is 3/4. So 4 times 3/4, cancel those, it's just 3. So this bit on the end just becomes plus 3. That whole term there just becomes 3. And we know that is equal to 3 now. We're solving that equal to 3. So you can just minus 3 from both sides. Okay, and then this becomes 4x cubed plus 5x squared minus 10x equals 0. And again, this is just more solving, really. This is quite a repetitive algebra question, but there we go. We take x out because there's a common factor. We've got 4x squared plus 5x minus 10 equals 0. Again, they're expecting you to be able to factorize this. So we've got 4 times negative 10, that's minus 40. So you're thinking about the factors of minus 40 that make 5. And actually, when you do this and you go through the factors of minus 40 that make 5, there isn't one. And what that's telling you is this is a quadratic formula question. So we're going to say either x equals 0, because one of the two factors here must be 0, or 4x squared plus 5x minus 10 equals 0. You could do v squared minus 4ac to check if this can be solved, but it says solution, so that's implying there's more than one here. So we're going to use the quadratic formula. So x equals minus b, so minus 5, that's your b term, plus or minus the square root of b squared, 5 squared minus 4 times 4, 4a times minus 10. All over 2 times 4. So that comes out as minus 5 plus or minus, then we've got 24, 106. So this is 160, positive 160 plus this 25, so it's 185, all over 8. So that's our other two solutions. So if we make it really, really clear here, we've got x equals 0, x equals minus 5 minus root 185 over 8, and then x equals minus 5 plus root 185 over 8. You could simplify down the 185, but you don't have to. If you want to, you can. It doesn't matter. They are your three solutions. So that is all of that question completed now. So I'm going to reveal the final bonus part. Let's have a look. Okay, so it says, part C, by using calculus, find the coordinates of the turning point of f of x and state their nature. Okay, let's create some space. So we need to look at our f of x. So let's write out what f of x is again. So we've got f of x is 4x cubed plus 5x squared minus 10x plus 3, we said earlier. So we've got our function. Now it wants a turning point. It's a cubic, so it could have one turning point or it could have two turning points, depending on the question. So let's have a look at this. So it says by using calculus. Now you need to know what this word calculus means. It's just a general term for differentiation and integration. So if we're thinking turning points, the gradient is 0 at the turning point. So we're thinking f dash x, or our derivative, is 0 at the turning point. So we've got to do that. So let's do that first, f dash x. So we bring the power to the front, that becomes 12, so 3 times 4 is 12x, and we reduce the power by 1, plus 10x minus 10. So that's really basic differentiation there. And we know at the turning point it's 0. So at the turning point, the first derivative is 0, so we need to solve this. Now we can simplify this a little bit, plus 5x minus 5 equals 0. So the solution to this is not one you can do without a calculator. So this part C we can use a calculator for. This wouldn't be in a non-calculator bit. So you solve this on your calculator and you should get x equals 0.587 and x equals minus 1.42. So we've got our two x solutions. Now it wants the coordinate, so we need our y values as well. Okay, so our y value is what f of x is equal, because if we're thinking is y equals f of x, normally it should say that in the question. And we substitute this into here, we should get minus 0.338, and we should get 15.8 for our x values. So we found the turning points, but then it says state their nature. And what that means is we need to say whether it's minimum or a maximum. Now it says by using calculus, so we need to use our second derivative to actually determine whether it's a min or a max. So we take our f of x. Now be careful, if you do ever simplify your f dash x in order to be able to factorize or look at it more easily, when we go back to do our second derivative, you're actually doing the second derivative of this. So you're differentiating this. Okay, don't differentiate the one below, you'll get it wrong, because that isn't actually the derivative, it's a simplified version. So then this becomes 24x plus 10 as our second derivative, and we substitute our x values in. So we're going to do f double dash, and then 0.587 is going to go in there. So that's 24 times 0.587 plus 10, and then we get 4.088. Because this is positive, so we can say since the second derivative is less than 0, we can say 0.587 minus 0.338 is a local min. Sorry, that should say greater than 0. Since it's greater than 0, it's a local minimum. And then f double dash x, or what was our other value, minus 1.42, and we substitute that in. And we get minus 44.08, very negative. So we can say here, since f double dash x is now, this time it is less than 0, we say that then therefore it's a local maximum, okay? And that we'll just write the coordinate to go with it. So minus 1.42 and minus, 15.8 was the y coordinate. There we go. And that's our answer. So that isn't a particularly hard final part of the question, but you need to know that inside out. You need to know how to use calculus to find min and max points and prove that they are min and max points. Okay, so that's it for question 2. If you're watching these daily with me, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you see tomorrow's one. If it's already out, I'll link it somewhere here. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow.